Happy almost New Year, everyone. You know that feeling when you're kind of thinking about all the things you want to accomplish in the next year? That spark of motivation, the clean slate?
Yeah.
We're going to take a deep dive into that feeling and where it comes from. Today, we're exploring the history of New Year's resolutions, from ancient rituals to modern-day goals.
It's incredible how this tradition spans millennia. It really connects us to people from civilizations long gone.
Yeah, it's amazing. We've got some fascinating historical accounts and research, and I'm excited to uncover how these resolutions evolved. First stop, ancient Mesopotamia, roughly 4,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's right around 2000 BC. The Babylonians were already celebrating the new year with a grand 11-day festival called Akitu.
11 days. That's quite a commitment to celebrating a new year.
Oh, it was a significant event for them. Their new year began in mid-March, marking the spring equinox and the start of the planting season.
So it makes sense that their celebrations were tied to the agricultural cycle, new year, new crops, new beginnings.
Exactly. Akitu was a time for renewal and rebirth. They'd plant crops, crown a new king, or reaffirm their loyalty to the existing one. But here's where it gets really interesting. Their resolutions weren't quite the same as ours.
I'm all ears. Tell me, how did the Babylonians approach their resolutions?
Well, they made promises to their gods, hoping to secure divine favor for the year ahead.
Okay, so a little different from our modern, I'm going to learn a new language type resolutions.
Definitely. Their promises often involve practical matters like repaying debts and returning borrowed farm equipment. It reflected the importance of agriculture and trade in their society.
Wow, those sound like serious commitments.
All they were. Imagine the weight of knowing that breaking a promise could incur the wrath of the gods. Powerful motivator to keep your word.
I bet. Now, let's jump ahead a few centuries and see how the Romans approached this whole New Year, new me concept.
Sure, so the Roman New Year initially started on the Ides of March, aligning with the beginning of their consular terms. However, a rebellion in Spain in 154 BC forced the Senate to elect new consuls early, and they chose January 1st.
So a bit of political upheaval inadvertently shaped the calendar as we know it.
It did. And this change set a precedent. January 1st gradually gained traction as the start of the new year. Then in 36 BC, Julius Caesar, known for his calendar reforms, officially established January 1st as New Year's Day.
Now, was this just a random date, or was there more to it?
Oh, there's definitely more to it. January was named after Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, transitions, and doorways. He was often depicted with two faces, one looking back at the past and the other gazing into the future.
I see the connection. A perfect symbol for a fresh start and new beginnings. But tell me, did the Romans also make resolutions to appease their gods like the Babylonians?
They did, but with a slightly different focus. Their promises often revolved around good behavior and civic duty, reflecting the Roman emphasis on order and their relationship with the gods. They'd offer sacrifices to Janus and pledge to be upstanding citizens.
So maybe not so different from our modern desire to be better versions of ourselves after all. It's fascinating to see how this tradition took shape in ancient Rome. Now let's move on to the Middle Ages, a time known for its knights, chivalry, and peacocks.
You heard that right. In the Middle Ages, knights would renew their peacock vows at the end of each year.
Peacock vows. That sounds intriguing. Paint me a picture. What did this ritual look like?
Okay, picture a grand feast with knights gathered around a magnificent peacock, either alive or roasted. They would place their hands on this bird and pledge to uphold chivalric values like courage, honor, and loyalty.
That's quite a scene. What do you think they were trying to achieve with such a dramatic ritual?
Well, the peacock held deep symbolism in various cultures. Its vibrant plumage and the eyes on its tail feathers were often associated with immortality, resurrection, and divine protection.
So almost as if they were making these vows under the watchful eye of something greater than themselves.
Exactly. It added weight and significance to their promises, reminding them of the ideals they were striving to uphold. And the public nature of these vows, performed in front of their peers, likely enhanced their commitment.
It's a powerful example of how social accountability can play a role in achieving our goals. And as we move further through history, we see how this desire for personal betterment continues to evolve.
It does. As we enter the 17th century, we find evidence of New Year's resolutions becoming more personal and introspective.
Is that right? What kind of evidence?
Well, one fascinating example is a diary entry from a Scottish writer named Anne Halkett. In 1671, she wrote down a list of pledges, including things like, "I will not offend any more," clearly reflecting a focus on personal growth.
So it seems like people are starting to shift their focus from grand public pronouncements to more intimate personal promises.
Yes, and this shift reflects a broader societal change, as we'll see in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, it's fascinating to consider how the tradition of New Year's resolutions continued to evolve, taking on new forms and meanings across cultures and centuries. Welcome back to our deep dive into the history of New Year's resolutions. We've journeyed from ancient Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages, uncovering how this tradition evolved from promises to gods to pledges of chivalry.
Yeah, it's fascinating how those early resolutions were so deeply intertwined with religion, societal values, and even agricultural practices.
Absolutely. Now, as we enter the 17th and 18th centuries, we see those resolutions taking on a more personal and introspective tone.
You mentioned that Scottish writer Anne Halkett and her pledges to not offend anyone. Was this a common theme at the time?
Yeah, it was part of a larger shift toward personal growth and moral betterment. By the 18th century, there was a noticeable trend towards spiritual resolutions, particularly among Christians.
So instead of pledging allegiance to a king or returning farm equipment, people were focusing on improving their character and their relationship with their faith.
Precisely. They used the new year as an opportunity for reflection and recommitment to their beliefs, promising to live a more pious and virtuous life.
It seems like a natural progression from those earlier resolutions, moving from outward actions to internal transformations. But did this focus on personal resolutions continue into the modern era?
It absolutely did, but with a fascinating twist. As we move into the 19th and 20th centuries, the emphasis shifted again, this time toward a more secular and individualistic concept of self-improvement.
So less about pleasing the gods and more about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. This shift mirrored broader societal changes like the rise of psychology and the growing focus on personal goals and aspirations. Modern resolutions began to revolve around things like health, fitness, career advancement, and personal growth.
It's fascinating how those resolutions reflected what society deemed important or desirable at the time. For instance, in the 1940s, some of the most popular resolutions were things like improving one's disposition, quitting smoking, or becoming more efficient at work.
Yeah, those resolutions definitely capture the spirit of the post-war era, a time when people were rebuilding their lives and striving for stability and success. And as we moved into the latter half of the 20th century, those resolutions continued to adapt to the changing times.
Right, we saw the rise of health and fitness resolutions as people became more aware of the importance of physical well-being. Losing weight, eating healthier, and exercising more became top priorities for many resolution makers.
And it wasn't just about physical health. Personal growth and self-help movements gained momentum, leading to resolutions focused on stress management, learning new skills, and pursuing hobbies.
It's almost as if those resolutions became a mirror reflecting our evolving understanding of what it means to live a fulfilling life. But let's be honest, despite our best intentions and all this focus on self-improvement, sticking to those resolutions is a whole other story.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Despite centuries of tradition and our deeply ingrained desire for self-betterment, we still struggle with turning those aspirations into reality.
It's almost comical how many articles and studies we found highlighting the low success rate of New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Some research even suggests that as many as 80% of people abandon their resolutions by the second week of February.
Yeah, it's a familiar pattern for many of us. We start with enthusiasm and determination, but as weeks go by, that initial motivation fizzles out.
We face the realities of changing ingrained habits, battling busy schedules, and sometimes simply lacking the willpower to stay the course.
It's a testament to the complexities of behavior change. It requires more than just good intentions. It takes planning, strategy, support systems, and a healthy dose of self-compassion for those inevitable moments when we stumble.
So while the tradition of making New Year's resolutions endures, the challenge of achieving them persists.
It does, and that brings us to another fascinating aspect of this tradition, the global variations. While the core desire for new beginnings might be universal, the ways in which cultures around the world celebrate New Year's resolutions are incredibly diverse and colorful.
I'm ready for a whirlwind tour of global traditions. Bring on the lentils, the grapes, and maybe even some red underwear. Welcome back to our deep dive into New Year's resolutions. We've explored how this tradition has evolved over centuries, from ancient promises to modern-day goals, and even touch upon the challenges of actually sticking to those resolutions.
We've covered a lot of ground tracing the fascinating journey of this age-old practice.
But now it's time for the fun part, exploring the global variations. Because even though the core desire for a fresh start might be universal, the ways in which cultures celebrate New Year's can be incredibly diverse.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that human traditions can be both deeply rooted and wonderfully adaptable.
Okay, first stop on our global tour is Brazil. What do Brazilians do to ring in the new year?
Well, instead of hitting the gym, they hit the beach. On New Year's Eve, it's tradition to head to the ocean dressed in white for a ritual that combines wishes waves and a bit of good luck.
That sounds amazing. Tell me more about this ritual. What does it involve?
At the stroke of midnight, they jump over 7 waves, making a wish with each jump.
7 waves, 7 wishes. Is there any significance to the number 7?
Well, the number 7 is often associated with luck and spiritual completion in many cultures, and wearing white symbolizes purity and a fresh start.
So it's a beautiful way to welcome the new year with a sense of hope and renewal, washing away the old and embracing the new.
Exactly. It's a powerful visual representation of letting go and starting fresh.
Next up, we have Italy, and they've got some pretty interesting traditions involving food and, well, undergarments.
That's right. In Italy, food plays a big role in New Year's celebrations. They eat lentils, which symbolize prosperity because their shape resembles coins. And for an extra dose of good fortune, some Italians wear red underwear.
Red underwear. Okay, I have to ask, where did that tradition come from?
It's an old tradition, and while the exact origins are unclear, it's supposed to bring good luck in love and life in general.
So a fun and lighthearted way to start the year on a positive note, adding a splash of color, quite literally, to their New Year's celebrations.
Exactly. And speaking of adding a bit of sweetness to the new year, let's hop over to Colombia, where wishes take center stage.
What do Colombians do to bring in the new year?
At midnight, they eat 12 grapes, one for each month of the year, making a wish with each grape.
12 grapes in 12 seconds. That sounds like a challenge.
It can be. It's a race against time, but it's a fun and festive way to set intentions for the year ahead.
I can imagine the laughter and excitement as everyone tries to keep up with the clock, grapes in hand.
And for those hoping for travel opportunities in the new year, some Colombians carry their suitcases around the block at midnight.
That's a fantastic visual representation of those aspirations, literally taking their travel dreams for a walk.
It is. It's a reminder that sometimes even symbolic actions can add a layer of intention and belief to our goals.
Okay, last stop on our global tour, Spain. And guess what? More grapes.
You guessed it. The Spanish also have a grape-eating tradition at midnight, trying to consume 12 grapes, one for each stroke of the clock.
So it's a race against time and a test of grape gobbling skills.
Exactly. If you manage to eat all 12 grapes before the clock finishes chiming, it's said to bring good luck. But if you fail well, it might mean bad luck.
Talk about pressure. It's a delicious, high-stakes way to start the year.
It is. And it's a testament to the enduring power of tradition, even in the face of modern life.
Wow, what a journey through time and traditions. It's been incredible to see how this simple act of welcoming a new year and setting intentions for the future is expressed in such diverse and colorful ways.
From ancient promises to gods to modern-day goals, and from beach rituals to grape-gobbling races, we've uncovered a rich tapestry of human history and cultural expression.
So what does this all mean? Whether you're making promises to ancient deities jumping over waves or stuffing your face with grapes, New Year's resolutions in all their forms represent a timeless human desire for new beginnings and self-improvement.
They reflect our hopes, our dreams, and our belief in the possibility of a brighter future. And they remind us that we're all connected by this shared human experience, even across cultures and centuries.
So as we approach this new year, let's embrace the opportunity for a fresh start, no matter how we choose to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even try a new tradition or two.
And who knows, maybe this time, armed with a deeper understanding of this age-old practice, we'll even manage to stick to those resolutions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the history of New Year's resolutions. Happy New Year, everyone!